Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I took this to this with less than 25 foils and just a few extensions. So this is my client, Brittany. She recently had a baby and was experiencing some postpartum hair loss. So we have not lightened her in over a year, actually, as you can see all that natural dark. But her hair has been growing back, which you will see when I do her extensions, all the little baby hairs coming in. But before we do anything, I am gonna prep her up with my K18 molecular repair mist so that her hair stays nice and healthy through this process. And then we are gonna get going. So around her hairline, I decided to do some teasy lights. There is, in my opinion, no wrong way to do a hairline. My advice is to always follow what your guest has and don't try to follow some specific pattern that you saw online or at school, because everybody's hairline is going to be so different. So I really like to follow it and just take really small, nice diagonal pieces and either tease or weave them. But you can see here how there's almost like a little space where there wasn't any hair. I'm just following exactly around her hairline to get that really bright, nice effect that I want. And of course, leaving the lightener off any old blonde pieces that are still there on the ends. And then we are gonna move to kind of her middle right here, but even though it's kind of straight across, I'm still just following that hairline and pushing those blonde pieces out and folding it together. For her front, I'm using Danger Jones lightener with 10 volume developer. And then once I move around to her top mohawk panels and back, I'm going to move to 20 volume developer. Those hairs around the front always process a lot faster. They are finer and they are more prone to breakage. So I always like to start really low on the front, and here we go. You saw how I teased that section, and I'm just gonna comb all of that teased hair out of the way. And you can see how fine that section is, and it kind of gives you like a natural weave when you do those teased sections. And the most important thing is just fully saturating that hair, keeping those blonde ends out. And then we are going to move to her top. So for a really quick partial, this is one of my favorite tricks. I like to go find your client's hairline where they part their hair, and then just make enough room to do about 5 sections on each side. So I'm just going straight across horizontal here, taking a little slice, weaving out or slicing out the bottom, and then taking a weave off the top and painting it with lightener. I'll show you this again so that you can see exactly how I'm taking each section, but it is such a super easy way to get all that dimension and depth that you want on that top hairline where she parts her hair. Once again, I'm taking a little section, leaving out the bottom. Now I'm going to weave this really nice thin ribbons. Then I'm going to tease that, getting all those little baby hairs out, which will create more dimension. Lay my foil down. See what a nice little weave that is. And that's about how thin of a section you want in order to get those really nice light lived in highlights. And I'm just fully saturating that section once again. And you notice on the hairline pieces, I folded them in that tri-fold locking way. And for these, I'm laying a piece on top of it. You can do whatever you want, but sometimes if I feel like a foil is too heavy or it has a lot of lightener or a lot of hair, sometimes I'll just lay a foil directly on top of it like that instead of folding. But you can do whatever works for you. There's no wrong way to foil as long as it's not slipping. But once again, I took that little horizontal section straight across, took a slice down, and then weaved out my little thin section. And you should really be able to see through it. I do not want big sections. We're going for really nice, light, lived-in highlights that she'll be able to wear for a long time before we have to do any more of them. I think one thing that I struggled with the most when I first started doing hair was overfoiling. I think we are taught these techniques and, platinum cards and blonding, and this is how you section and this is how you do it, but that sectioning is not going to work for every single person and for every single look. And if you feel like you are never seeing enough dimension in your work, then it's quite possible that you are just overfoiling, because sometimes less is more. It's really important to just figure out that placement and what is going to give you the effect that you want, what's really going to make those blonde pieces pop. So I'm just going to keep doing these little sections here so you can see. Really, really fine, not a ton of hair. I think I wound up doing like 5, maybe 4 to 5 foils on each side of her little mohawk panel there. And also, I think the other really important thing to remember with these really fine sections is you're going to get a really nice even lift and you're going to get really good saturation. If you're taking too thick of a section, that's where you're going to see uneven lifting. You're going to see orange, you're going to see blotches. With these really fine sections and weaved pieces, I know that I'm going to see beautiful dimension. Everything is going to lift to platinum blonde and it's going to be perfect. And this will be the last section that I do on this side, and we'll move over here. I decided I wanted one more little piece on her hairline, so I took that diagonal section, teased it, and just kind of put it in a foil. And now I'm gonna do the exact same thing on this side that I did on the other side, like 4 or 5 foils, doing my weave and tease. And just make sure, depending on what you want, if you want more blonde, you don't have to leave that slice out. You can just weave it and tease it. But we're going for a really dimensional look with a lot of brown still. So that's why I'm leaving that slice out of the bottom of each of my sections along with the weaves. And this will be my final piece here. And then I get to show you how we do the back. But there's my super tiny weave with my little tease. Gonna paint my Danger Jones 20 volume on right there to the end of the foil. That's another thing that I love about this lightener is it is not going to puff up and come out of the foils. I never have issues with bleed lines on this. So now down here, I'm just gonna do 2 foils using my coup board. I really like this board because it holds back all those little teased pieces. So when I'm going underneath or on the back of the head, I really love using this board. Helps me get really good saturation. But that hairline is also a really big part of your money piece because those dark hairs come forward. So I just want to make sure that we have brightness underneath. So literally just 1 foil on each side, teased it, probably one of the larger sections that I did, but that hair underneath is going to lift super quick for us. Now I'm just taking a little bit in her crown there. I'm going to do, I think, 3 or 4 foils over here. Took a nice section, did my weave and my tease, and now I'm just going to paint this. And like I said, I'm only going to take a few horizontal sections back here, and this is just going to ensure that she has some dimension that kind of falls over the back in her crown area, because we don't want to have just black. But you can see, well, not black, but brown. You can see how much I'm not lightening through her hair though. I'm not doing anything through her mids and back. That whole area is just going to stay brown. And I'm just taking a few sections here. But like I said, I'm going to do my weave, leave those sections out on the bottom, tease it up real good, make sure that I fully saturate my lightener. Get those little hairs out of there. And you are not going to believe the effect that we will have. There's still so much dark in there, but you're not even going to be able to tell that all of that is dark underneath. Here are our few foils in the back. Just gonna let her process, and I'm going to retab her extensions now. So this is my magnetic Stardust hair board. I love it because that way when I pull my client's extensions out, I know exactly where they were on her head. She has worn these a lot of times. I can't remember exactly how long, but I know it's been a while. So they're pretty old, but they are holding up. So I'm just pulling off that old tape and putting on her fresh new tape. And then after I'm done retabbing them, I flip it upside down and put the magnet back on so that it is ready to go back in her head in the order that I put them in. Time to pull, and look at how beautiful these highlights are. There's nothing more satisfying than a foil pull. All perfectly lifted to that level 10 that we want. And we'll just enjoy the foil pull for a minute. So satisfying. But I am going to wash her out with the K18 Detox shampoo. That is pretty much my go-to shampoo anytime I'm washing out any kind of color or lightener. It is amazing and it gets everything out. Next, I am going to use the K18 mask before I tone her. Now, K18, if you are not familiar, this is so different than any like bond builder or something that you've been using before. It is not a bond builder. K18 is a hair treatment, and it works at a molecular level to repair and reconnect broken keratin chains in damaged hair. It restores strength and elasticity, overall health of the hair, and literally takes it back to virgin strength. But I am using Danger Jones toners in 932. Usually I like to mix a lot of stuff together, but 932 is such a gorgeous tone, and I know it's going to be perfect for Brittany because I don't need to cancel out any warmth, and she lifted to a perfect blonde, so I'm just going to slap that on. We're not doing any kind of shadow root. We won't need it because of the teasing. Everything is going to look so blended, so you don't always need to put a shadow root in there if your application and your placement is perfect. And in this case, it's beautiful. We have no need to kind of smudge or shadow anything. I'm just slapping that 932 Danger Jones gloss toner all through her hair. Also, I did think I forgot to mention with the K18, after you apply the mask, you always want to wait 4 minutes for it to fully activate and get into the hair before you add a toner or blow dry or add any other product. It's really important that you get those 4 minutes for it to activate. So normally after I take somebody out of the wash bowl, if I'm going to tone them, which I really prefer to tone at the chair versus the wash bowl because I know what I'm painting and everything that I'm getting on, but I will put their K18 hair mask in and then I will go mix up their toner, because by the time I'm done mixing up their toner, then I know that they are ready to, have their toner in. It's sat for the full 4 minutes. The mask is good to go. And then after I worked that toner through her ends, I had her process for about 12 minutes, washed her out with the K18 Damage Shield shampoo. Then I did another round of the K18 hair mask. Oh, you can already see how beautiful it is. I'm using the new K18 Volume Repair Mist, as well as the Leaf and Flower 7-minute blowout and the Leaf and Flower Frizz Remedy Spray. These are my blowout sprays that I use on pretty much every single person. They smell so good, they work so good, and everybody tells me that their hair lasts for like a week after they come to see me. But we are just going to blast dry her real quick, nothing fancy. And then I'm gonna go through and get off any dead ends and split ends that need to go before I install her extensions. But look at how beautiful that looks. We barely did any foils. There was less than 25, and she's got all this blonde when we started with a straight up brunette head of hair. So it's pretty amazing what you can do with just a few foils. Oh, I love watching the flip fall after a fresh cut. So satisfying. But I'm using Acri shears. They are an amazing shear company, and they're super affordable compared to some shear companies. But I'm just kind of bringing everything forward and around and getting off all those split ends, making sure that her face frame is really pretty and connected, because those split ends will stand out when you put extensions in. And now we are going to install her tape-ins. And if you've seen a tape-in extension video from me before, you know that I like to lay them in a brick lay pattern. And what that means is it kind of goes in an odd, even up the head. So on her very bottom section, I do 2 pieces, or 2 sandwiches technically, it's 4 pieces. And then as I go up 1, I'm going to do 3. And in that little gap between the 2, that's like where my middle one would go. So all through your client's head, you really want to make sure you follow that brick lay pattern. So that way you get that full effect and there's no gaps in where the hair extensions should be. But you just want to make sure, other than that, to take a really thin section, about the same size section as when we were foiling. And you do 1 piece underneath, 1 piece on top, and really make sure to push them together. Also, yes, we are watching Love is Blind. It's awful, but I can't stop. So yeah, as you can see, these are those little hairs I was talking about, how she had a lot of postpartum hair loss and they're starting to grow back. So I'm just using these little Velcro things to hold the baby hairs away, because we do not want to get any of those little baby hairs trapped in the tape so that she's having pulling or anything, because that's super uncomfortable. If you've ever had an extension that has like little flyaways or baby hairs trapped in it, it's painful and it's going to tug on it until it just rips it out. So I love those little Velcro things. They are awesome for keeping flyaways and baby hairs away. But on this section, we are doing 4 pieces because we had the 3 underneath. Now on this one, I'm going a little bit above her head, and this is where we will have 5. Using my little Velcro pieces to hold her flyaways back. But isn't it crazy? All her little hairs are coming back that fell out. Having a baby is hard work, but we are putting that 5th piece right there. This in the 5-piece section. We're going to have 1 right in the middle, and underneath it, it was those 4. So it's like right in between those pieces on the bottom, if that makes sense. But just going to follow that brick lay pattern all through her head, making sure that they are really tightly squeezed together. And also, if your guest wears like glasses or sunglasses, you always want to ask them to kind of put them on and see if the tape-in is bothering them at all. Look at how beautifully it's blending already. The highlights are gorgeous. We are just going to add a couple more tape-ins here to just kind of fill in her front pieces, because her front pieces are super short from all of her postpartum hair loss. So we are really just going to add that volume right in here for her. Look at how gorgeous it blends. That is one thing that I always talk about, and I think I mentioned it before on a previous video, that even if your extension hair color is slightly different from your hair color, if the application is done right, they're going to blend and look gorgeous. Oh, look at that. Her highlights are so pretty. Now here is our finished product. Can you believe we went from that super brown hair with no blonde in it all the way to this with less than 25 foils? She was in and out of my door in 3 hours. So this just goes to show that you do not need all day for a huge transformation. You can get tons of results with just 25 foils in 3 hours. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. I will see you next Monday for more content.